Good afternoon, dear colleagues. May I kindly ask you to take your seats, please? Dear colleagues, please take your seats. We are about to start the committee meeting. Dear colleagues, I call the meeting of the General Committee on Democracy, Human Rights and Humanitarian Affairs to order. Colleagues, the agenda for this meeting has been distributed. Could I please invite you to adopt the agenda? Are there any objections? I don't see any objections. The agenda is adopted. Dear colleagues, may I remind that the election of committee officers for the next annual session of the Assembly will take place during the committee's final session, which is scheduled to take place tomorrow, July 7th at 11:30 in the morning. As agreed yesterday, nominations for candidates for election should be handed in the table office by 6 p.m. today. Please remember to bring your voting cards tomorrow, as this may be needed for the election. May I also remind colleagues that if you wish to speak in the plenary debates, you will need to register with the table office by 2 p.m. tomorrow. Now I would like to ask you to have your voting cards ready. We will continue our consideration of the amendments submitted to the draft resolution. As previously agreed, if no amendment has been tabled to a paragraph and if nobody requests a vote on a paragraph, we will consider it adopted. In discussing amendments, I will call the proposer of the amendment first and then will call any opponent of the amendment. I will then ask the sponsor of the draft resolution, Ms. Carina Odebrink, for her opinion, if she has not already spoken. Following that, I should put the amendment to the vote. I ask speakers to observe a time limit of 1 minute. Now we continue with the paragraphs 53 to 58. We will take these paragraphs together. Does anyone want a separate vote on any of these paragraphs? Paragraph 53 to 58. With no request for a vote, paragraphs 53 to 58 are agreed. I call Ms. Pic from France to propose Amendment 17, which inserts a new paragraph after paragraph 58. Ms. Pick, the floor is yours.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Effectivement, cet amendement vise à demander à ce que les États participants à l'OSCE contribuent à la transition pacifique et inclusive et ainsi qu'à la réconciliation de la Syrie et que cette contribution, ce soutien à ce processus soit subordonné aux progrès qui sont à des progrès tangibles et vérifiables en ce qui concerne les droits humains, les droits de l'homme et les libertés individuelles ainsi que le respect de la diversité des composantes de la société syrienne.
Does anyone wish to speak against Amendment 17? No. I shall now put Amendment 17 to the vote. Oh, I'm sorry, Karina. Again. Please, your opinion.
No problem, Sargis. As I said previous on another amendment from Ms. Pick from France, my focus has not been in my resolution or report has been on Syria. So with that, I will leave the decision to the committee, please.
Thank you. I shall now put Amendment 17 to the vote. Will all those in favor of the amendment please raise their voting cards? Thank you. Will all those against please raise their voting cards? Abstentions? Thank you. Amendment 17 is adopted. Now I call Mr. Krajci from Slovakia to propose Amendment 18, which replaces paragraph 59 with a new paragraph. Mr. Krajci, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment seeks to provide a more complete and balanced reflection of the current situation on the ground. It recognizes that lasting peace cannot be achieved without addressing the actions of Hamas, including its continued refusal to disarm, while at the same time reaffirming the urgent need to protect civilians and ensure full respect for international humanitarian law by all parties to the conflict. By acknowledging both the security and humanitarian dimensions of the conflict, this amendment strengthens the credibility and comprehensiveness of the resolution. It is intended to promote an objective and balanced approach that is fully consistent with OSCE principles. I respectfully ask colleagues to support this amendment. Thank you.
Does anyone wish to speak against Amendment 18? Member from the Spain, please.
Gracias, presidente. Lamentablemente, esta enmienda no tiene nada de equilibrado ni de búsqueda de ningún consenso. Esta enmienda lo que pretende es suprimir la referencia que el apartado 59 hace a las operaciones militares que Israel está desarrollando en Gaza después de los acuerdos de cese del fuego y el daño que está provocando en la población civil, propone suprimir eso para imputarle a la organización terrorista Hamas todas las desgracias que están sucediendo en Gaza después del alto el fuego. Por lo tanto, no es nada equilibrada. Equilibrado sería una referencia explícita a ambos comportamientos, el del ejército de Israel y el de Hamás. Lo cierto es que esta enmienda lo que quiere es sustituir, no completar, sino sustituir el apartado 59 y, en concreto, la referencia explícita a la intervención del ejército israelí. Nos parece, a todos los efectos, improcedente este intento de negar y de silenciar esa realidad. Muchas gracias, presidente.
What is the rapporteur's opinion of the amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And my text and my words in paragraph 59 is not my perceived feelings. I'm leaning on the UN report from June 2026, the Office for Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. And I think that my words is more closer to what the UN report is saying, so therefore I will not support the amendment. Thank you.
I shall now put Amendment 18 to the vote. All those in favor, please raise your voting cards. Thank you. All those against, please raise your voting cards. Abstentions? Thank you. Amendment 18 is defeated. We will now vote on paragraph 59. Those in favor, please raise your voting cards. Those against? Abstentions? Thank you. Paragraph 59 is adopted. We will now take paragraph 60, which does not have any amendments proposed on it. Does anyone want to vote on this paragraph? With no request for a vote, paragraph 60 is agreed. Now I call Dr. Fry from Canada to propose Amendment 19, which inserts a new paragraph after paragraph 60.
Thank you very much, Chair. Once again, I want to congratulate the rapporteur on an excellent report. But I want to strengthen some things that she just wrote. And so I'm asking for a new paragraph after existing paragraph 60, because I think while she's right in showing the vulnerable groups, we need to be able to get disaggregated information that would give us the facts on the reality of the disparities, which we don't get in a general sense of statistics. So I'm asking us to add basically a collecting of comprehensive disaggregated information to help to make good public policy better.
Does anyone wish to speak against Amendment 19? What is Ms. Oderbring's opinion of the amendment?
Thank you. I support the amendment. Thank you.
I shall now put Amendment 19 to the vote. All those in favor, please raise your voting cards. Thank you. All those against, please raise your voting cards. Abstentions? Amendment 19 is adopted. We will now take paragraphs 60 to 62 together, which do not have any amendments proposed on them. Does anyone want to vote on any of these paragraphs? With no request for a vote, paragraphs 60 to 62 are agreed. Now I call Ms. Kugler from Austria to propose Amendment 20, which inserts a new paragraph after paragraph 62. Ms. Maria Karapetyan from Armenia, as a co-sponsor, will present the amendment, please.
Thank you, Chair. As a co-sponsor of this amendment, it's a pleasure for me to present the following to the attention of this committee on behalf of Ms. Gudrun Kugler. This amendment focuses on the need to give young people a meaningful role in democratic life, especially as our societies are aging. We wanted to add this because demographic change also affects political decision-making. If young people are not properly represented, policies may become less balanced and less focused on the long-term future. This is important because decisions taken today will shape the opportunities of younger and future generations in education, employment, housing, family life, public finances, and security. By supporting this amendment, dear colleagues, we strengthen the call for intergenerational balance, youth participation, and policies that serve both today's citizens and future generations. I therefore ask for your kind support. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak against Amendment 20? Colleague from Spain, please.
Gracias, presidente. Ya lo hice esta mañana, intervine en una enmienda parecida, en contra, y tengo que reiterar los mismos argumentos. No creo que en esta sala nadie esté en contra de promover la participación política de los jóvenes, pero el sentido de la enmienda, en mi opinión, es muy diferente. Más bien, lejos de buscar un equilibrio intergeneracional, está promoviendo un conflicto intergeneracional, porque presupone que las generaciones actuales, más envejecidas, van a legislar en su beneficio propio, hipotecando el futuro de los jóvenes. Y eso es negar el principio democrático, en el que cada hombre, cada mujer, tenga la edad que tenga, manifiesta su opinión democrática y la ley es la expresión de esa voluntad general. Por lo tanto, no entiendo el interés por promover ese conflicto, esa confrontación entre generaciones de esta forma. Yo más bien creo que hay que respetar la esencia de la democracia, sea cual sea cada uno de los momentos en los que la población tenga las características que tenga.
What is the rapporteur's opinion of the amendment?
Thank you, Chair. As I said before, a resilient and vivid democracy needs the participation of both young and older people, old people, men, women, with different knowledge and experiences. So I'm reading this and see that there is such kind of conflict. And I think it's important. I know how it looks in my country, and I think that's the same in many countries, that we need more young people in the parliament as politicians and policy making. So therefore, I support this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. I shall now put Amendment 20 to the vote. All those in favor, please raise your voting cards. Thank you. All those against, please raise your voting cards. Abstentions? Amendment 20 is adopted. I call Dr. Fry from Canada to propose Amendment 21, which inserts a new paragraph after paragraph 62.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm proposing this amendment because I think we need to remember that as we move forward with gender equality, we cannot make one group move forward at the expense of another. And recent data and research is telling us that boys are being disadvantaged with regard to education and health. And what happens is they become resentful and angry, and it actually backfires in terms of causing radicalization of boys. So I'm saying that we also cannot see this as a zero-sum game. Let's make sure that we do not disadvantage one group as we move another group forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak against Amendment 21? What is Rapporteur's opinion of the amendment?
Thank you, Chair. And I will start to say I will not question Dr. Fry's deep knowledge and experience in these matters. And we have had a discussion in the Gender Network about what Dr. Fry now is amending for. I can support the amendment, but still we need to remind ourselves of that the ones who are the most affected of violence, discrimination, and human rights, that's the women. So, but I can support the amendment. Thank you.
I shall now put Amendment 21 to the vote. All those in favor, please raise your voting cards. Thank you. All those against, please raise your voting cards. Any abstentions? Amendment 21 is adopted. Now I call on Mr. Aydin from Turkey to propose Amendment 22, which amends paragraph 63.
Thank you, President. Dear colleagues, this amendment aims to make the paragraph more comprehensive and operational, while fully preserving the commitment to international human rights and refugee law. It also reflects the need for orderly, safe, and dignified migration management. It rightly underlines fair responsibility sharing, especially with countries hosting large refugee populations, and recognizes the importance of voluntary, safe, and dignified returns when conditions are conducive. By adding the fight against migrant smuggling, the text also addresses one of the key challenges affecting both migrants and the states. I kindly ask for your support, and I would like to thank the rapporteur as well. Thank you.
Does anyone wish to speak against Amendment 22? No? What is Ms. Odebrink's opinion of the amendment?
Thank you, Chair. And I have respect for Mr. Aydin's amendment and opinions, but we know also that today we have more refugees than ever around the planet, and that's a responsibility for all of us. And my paragraph, the focus on that is about the refugees, people running away from death, torture, and war. So that's my focus. So with that said, I would like to stick to my text and will not support the amendment. Thank you.
I shall now put Amendment 22 to vote. All those in favor, please raise your voting cards. Thank you. All those against, please raise your voting cards. Thank you. Abstentions? Thanks. Amendment 22 is defeated. We will now vote on paragraph 63. Those in favor, please raise your voting cards. Those against? Abstentions? Paragraph 63 is adopted. I call on Mr. Aydin from Turkey to propose Amendment 23, which amends paragraph 64.
Yes, again, this amendment is also prioritized to keep a kind of balance in as far as the burden sharing is concerned, because we have got responsibility about that. It aims to preserve the purpose of the paragraph by presenting a more balanced and implementable formulation. The importance of robust and independent national monitoring mechanisms is maintained. At the same time, by replacing full access with appropriate access, the amendment seeks to ensure that such mechanisms operate in a manner consistent with national law, security considerations, privacy safeguards, and operational realities on the ground. This approach does not weaken the commitment to the protection of human rights. Rather, it contributes to a more realistic, precise, and practically applicable provision. In this spirit, I kindly ask for your support. Thank you.
Does anyone wish to speak against Amendment 23? What is Ms. Odebrink's opinion of the amendment?
Thank you. In line with what I said on the previous amendment, I think the proposal of putting in appropriate would weaken my intention in my paragraph, so I will not support the amendment. Thank you.
I shall now put Amendment 23 to the vote. Will all those in favor of the amendment please raise your voting cards? All those against, please raise your voting cards. Abstentions? Amendment 23 is defeated. We will now vote on paragraph 64. Those in favor, please raise your voting cards. Those against? Abstentions? Paragraph 64 is adopted. We will now take paragraph 65 to 68 together, which do not have any amendments proposed on them. Does anyone want to vote on any of these paragraphs? With no request for a vote, paragraph 65 to 68 are agreed. Now I call Mr. Slitz from Poland to propose Amendment 24, which inserts a new paragraph after paragraph 68.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the sponsor of this amendment, I would like to say that we propose adding a new paragraph on disinformation and foreign intervention in the electoral process, which we feel is a priority. Thank you very much.
Does anyone wish to speak against Amendment 24? What is Rapporteur's opinion?
Thank you. I think it's a very important amendment, so I support it. Thank you.
I shall now put Amendment 24 to the vote. Will all those in favor of the amendment please raise your voting cards? All those against of the amendment, please raise your voting cards. Abstentions? Amendment 24 is adopted. We will now take paragraph 69 to 71 together, which do not have any amendments proposed on them. Does anyone want to vote on any of these paragraphs? With no request for a vote, paragraph 69 to 71 are agreed. I call Ms. Stajer Perlin from Slovenia to propose Amendment 25, which inserts a new paragraph after paragraph 71.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, this is an amendment that is tabled coming from the work that I'm doing as Special Representative for Youth. So we have seen that every time we go to election observations, we get very good briefings with very systematically presented situations in the country. And especially with regards to gender, what I'm proposing in this amendment is already done very well. So we are informed about how many women there are candidates and what are the opportunities. So my suggestion would be that we encourage ODIHR to also do this with perspectives to youth, so we can better understand what is the situation of youth participation in these countries where we are observing elections. So I thank all the countries that support it with signatures, and I ask for your support.
Does anyone wish to speak against Amendment 25? What is Ms. Odebrink's opinion of the amendment?
I support the amendment. Thank you.
I shall now put Amendment 25 to the vote. Will all those in favor of the amendment please raise their voting cards? Thank you. All those against, please raise your voting cards. Abstentions? Amendment 25 is adopted. Dear colleagues, an oral amendment has been proposed by Mr. Pavlo Frolov from Ukraine to insert a new paragraph after paragraph 71. In accordance with paragraph 10 of Rule 22 of our Rules of Procedure, first I will ask whether there is any objection to the oral amendment being considered. If there is any objection, the oral amendment cannot be considered and it falls. If there is no objection, we will proceed to consider the amendment in the same way as other amendments. That is, we will hear from the proposer of the oral amendment, one speaker against the oral amendment, and the opinion of the rapporteur. We will then decide by a simple majority vote whether to adopt the oral amendment. Is there any objection to the oral amendment being considered? I see no objection. Then I call Mr. Frolov to speak to the amendment.
Thank you, Chair. Dear colleagues, I thank you very much for supporting amendment to access to USC officials detained by Russia to Red Cross and to OSCE Secretariat, human treatment and medical care. Thank you very much. But this amendment states that violators of the sanctions regime must compensate the damage specifically to the victims of aggression. The European Union has already set the direction. Directive 1260 encouraged member states to establish mechanism for transferring confiscated assets to Ukraine as a victim of aggression. And it already works. The United States has transferred almost 6 million in confiscated assets to support Ukrainian veterans and infrastructure, while several European countries directed fine for sanctions violations towards needs in Ukraine. This approach would reflect a simple principle of justice. Those who helped circumvent sanctions should help repair the damage, not the taxpayers. I urge you to support this amendment to ensure fundamental justice and protect the rights of victims of Russian aggression. You know, tonight more than dozens victims after Russian bombs, and they need payment. Ukrainian budget had no money to support them. I kindly ask you to support this amendment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone wish to speak against this amendment? What is Ms. Oderbrink's opinion to the amendment?
I support the amendment. Thank you.
I shall now put the oral amendment to the vote. Will all those in favor of the amendment raise their voting cards? Thank you. Against the amendment? Any abstentions? The oral amendment is adopted.
Thank you very much, dear colleagues.
Dear colleagues, this concludes the consideration of amendments. Thank you very much. I propose that we now formally move to a vote on the draft resolution as amended. Would those in favor of adopting the draft resolution as amended, please raise their voting cards. Thank you. All those against? Abstentions? The draft resolution as amended is adopted. Now we move on to the next item on our agenda, which is consideration of the supplementary items. We previously agreed that if no amendment has been tabled to a paragraph and if nobody requests a vote on a paragraph, we can consider it adopted. Needless to say, any time a specific vote is requested, we will do so. Are there any objections to continuing this procedure for the supplementary items? Then the proposal is adopted. We will move on to supplementary item 6. Human trafficking and modern slavery, fostering dialogue and deepening cooperation across OSCE participating states. I would like to give the floor to the principal sponsor of this supplementary item, Baroness Winterton from the United Kingdom. Baroness Winterton, you have the floor.
Colleagues, my supplementary item focuses on the evil crime of human trafficking and modern slavery, and the need for a coordinated international response to it across the OSCE countries and beyond. Human trafficking destroys the human rights of the most vulnerable people across the world, in the poorest countries, undermines the rule of law, and poses a global security threat. The suffering caused should shame us all. It is unacceptable, and that is why it should be an essential focus of the OSCE PA. My supplementary item reflects the resolution we have passed, which acknowledged that the heightened risk of human trafficking, forced labour, and other abuses makes it a critical humanitarian and security concern. We've heard powerful speeches from delegates, especially the Norway delegate yesterday, to reinforce this. I'm very aware that many members of this Assembly have worked tirelessly to tackle this hideous crime, especially the Special Representative Congressman Christopher Smith and the OSCE's Special Rapporteur Carrie Johnston. Her detail-driven reports shed uncomfortable light on what is happening. There are shocking stories, such as migrants from Bangladesh who try to reach Italy through legal means but find themselves trapped in Libya, paying huge amounts of money to criminals, and they face abuse, detention, and extortion. And we are seeing deeply worrying new developments, the growth in cyber scam centres, as highlighted in the OSCE's recent report of the Alliance Against Trafficking in Persons. That is why we need to reach across the OSCE countries, including Mediterranean and Asian partners, for international action and cooperation. We need to recognise and acknowledge that human smuggling criminal gangs can work closely with human trafficking gangs and sometimes are one and the same. That is why we need international action. But we must also innovate, sharing information and good practice to detect and prevent trafficking at source and in destination countries. Whenever we discuss international organised crime and drug trafficking, we should include human smuggling, human trafficking, and modern slavery. I have discussed this with Eugenio Zoffili, the OSCE PA's Special Representative on combating organised crime, and he is in agreement. Colleagues, this Assembly and the OSCE's institutions have been steadfast in keeping the fight against human trafficking on the agenda. I hope that colleagues will support my supplementary item so that we can not only keep it there, but place it front and centre of our work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Baroness. Now the floor is open for debate. The time limit for the speeches is 3 minutes. I may reduce the time limit further if necessary. I give the floor to Mr. Mederbek Aliyev from Kyrgyzstan, followed by Ms. Özgür Saki from Turkey.
Добрый день, уважаемые коллеги, уважаемые друзья. Позвольте отметить, что я являюсь первым вице-спикером парламента Кыргызской Республики и одновременно национальным докладчиком по противодействию торговле людьми. Несмотря на то, что 21 век человечество научилось двигаться вперед, развитие технологий, искусственного интеллекта, открытия в медицине, совершенствование толерантности прав человека и так далее, все равно, к великому сожалению, происходят такие ужасные преступные действия, в том числе, как и работорговля, нелегальное перемещение людей, сексуальная работорговля, детей малолетних на органы и так далее, и так далее. Поэтому, будучи национальным докладчиком по противодействию торговле людьми, мы проводим хорошую работу с Организацией Объединенных Наций. Я вот в этом году возглавил делегацию парламентской ассамблеи ОБСЕ от нашей страны. Всегда наша страна готова к открытому диалогу, сотрудничать в сфере правоохранительных органов, Интерпола, для того, чтобы минимизировать такого рода преступления. К великому сожалению, такого рода преступления случаются и в таких достаточно развитых странах Европы, Азии и ряда других стран. Это проблема не только локального характера или одного государства, но это проблема, которая затрагивает всех нас с вами, которая проблема является нисколько не ниже по значимости наряду с другими сегодняшними геополитическими процессами. Благодарю за внимание.
Спасибо. Now I give the floor to Ms. Özgür Saki, followed by Mr. Zvonimir Troskot from Croatia. Ms. Saki from Turkey, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Baroness Winterton, for her important report. I support this item. But as the country hosting the largest number of refugees, Turkey should be more prominent on the agenda. OSCE shouldn't remain silent about anti-democratic practice in Turkey just to keep asylum seekers out of Europe. I would like to inform you about the political situation in Turkey. In the run-up to the NATO-OTAN summit, Ankara was effectively placed under a state of emergency. Operations targets socialists, academics, lawyers, and journalists were carried out prior to the summit. To date, more than 300 people have been arrested, and the number continues to rise. Yıldız Tar, editor-in-chief of the Kausgele, and Tema, environmental volunteers, also were arrested. Access to more than 20 X accounts, including those belonging to journalists and campaign accounts, was blocked on grounds of the national security and public order. The X account of many feminist and LGBTE organizations were suspended before Pride March. Stand-up comedian Deniz Göktaş has been placed under arrest, is accused of inciting hatred and hostility in his stage routine, as well as insulting Tayyip Erdogan. When he released his latest performance on YouTube on June 25, the video was viewed nearly 11 million times. The Kurdish peace process, which began in 2024, has not yet produced concrete results amid regional developments such as the Iran war and events in Syria. Selahattin Demirtaş, Figen Yüksekdağ, Osman Kavala remain in prison despite the rulings of the European Court of Human Rights. Abdullah Öcalan is still being held in isolation on İmralı. Government blocked access to several Kurdish media outlets and their social media accounts in Turkey. At least 45 elected mayor and co-mayors have been jailed. Of these municipalities, 34 belongs to main opposition CHP and 10 to the DEM party. This is why what is happening in Turkey is not merely a domestic political issue. It concerns the future of democratic institutions through the OECD region. And we should talk about more if we want to prevent human trafficking. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last speaker on this supplementary item is Mr. Zvonimir Troskot from Croatia. Mr. Troskot, the floor is yours.
Honorable Chair, distinguished colleagues, Croatia strongly supports the adoption of all initiatives of this kind, and which are basically recognizing, preventing child trafficking and sexual exploitation that must become a core priority across the OSCE area, not only in principle, but through stronger and better coordinated action. Child trafficking and sexual exploitation are not distant horrors. They are present-day realities fueled by armed conflict, poverty, organized crime, corruption, and the abuse of power. They represent one of the gravest violations of human rights and human dignity. According to UNICEF, more than 1 million children are trafficked every year, many for the purpose of sexual exploitation. Whether in conflict-affected regions or in stable democracies, children are abducted, sold, exploited, and deprived of their childhood. Recent cases of some of the EU countries involving fraudulent cross-border adoptions demonstrate that no society is immune from this crime. The case of Jeffrey Epstein showed the world how the sexual exploitation of minors can be enabled not only by criminal networks, but also by wealth, influence, silence, and institutional failure. It reminded us that when powerful offenders escape accountability for years, children pay the highest price. This supplementary item rightly calls for stronger prevention, improved victim identification, enhanced international cooperation, effective prosecution of traffickers, and child-centered protection for victims. Croatia believes the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly can make even stronger contribution. We therefore propose the appointment of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly Special Rapporteur on child trafficking to strengthen coordination, identify institutional weaknesses, and promote best practices among participating states. And number two, the development of the OSCE-wide early warning and information sharing mechanism with particular attention to vulnerable migrant children and cross-border adoption fraud. Dear colleagues, protecting children is not only a legal obligation, it is a moral responsibility. Our task is not simply to condemn these crimes, but to prevent them, protect victims, and ensure that perpetrators are brought to justice. We must be the voice of children who have no voice of their own. Let the OSCE become the shield these children deserve. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will now move to consider the amendments submitted to the draft resolution. 3 valid amendments have been tabled and copies of the amendments have been made available. In discussing amendments, I will call the proposer of the amendment first and then will call any opponent of the amendment. Dear colleagues, we will now take paragraphs 1 to 7 together, which do not have any amendments proposed on them. Does anyone want a vote on any of these paragraphs? With no request for a vote, paragraphs 1 to 7 are agreed. I call Mrs. Kugler from Austria to propose Amendment 1, which inserts a new paragraph after paragraph 7.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Let me first of all say thank you to Baroness Winterton to write this supplementary item. The topic is extremely important and of grave concern to all of us and to the Parliamentary Assembly. I am, in my Amendment 1, I would like to insert a new paragraph which focuses on the topic of digital technologies, because we know estimates say that up to 80% of trafficking actually takes place through technology, or this is how it's actually started. So we need to take it very seriously, and I think it's important to spell this out explicitly. It also speaks of the under-identification of victims, which all of us know is a key topic, and it speaks of the need of involving survivors in finding good responses. Now, I'm aware that this is throughout the supplementary item a key theme, but I would also ask to spell it out in such an explicit form, so I do hope for your support of my amendment.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak against Amendment 1? May I ask the principal rapporteur sponsor's opinion on the amendment?
Thank you, Chair, and I thank Gudrun Kugler for tabling the amendments and for the interest of others who've signed it. I think there's very important points that have been made about technology. I touched on that in my item itself. This expands on those points, so I'm very happy to accept the amendments.
Thank you. I shall now put amendment vote to the vote. Will all those in favor of the amendment please raise their voting cards? Thank you. All those against? Any abstentions? Amendment 1 is adopted. We will now take paragraphs 8 to 18 together, which do not have any amendments proposed on them. Does anyone want to vote on any of these paragraphs? With no request for a vote, paragraphs 8 to 18 are agreed. I call Ms. Kugler from Austria to propose Amendment 2, which inserts a new paragraph after paragraph 18.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Yes, I would like to suggest to add here the idea of equipping specialized units in order to combat technology-facilitated trafficking. And as you know, I think it's a rule of thumb that very often law enforcement is always a few steps behind the perpetrators. And in order to catch up to them and protect these innocent victims and to protect the vulnerable people, I would be very happy if we could step up in the way we tackle this. And the second part of this paragraph speaks of the necessity of anonymous channels and whistleblower possibilities, including the protection that these people will afterwards not suffer retaliation. And so I would again here ask you for broad support. This is not to speak against what Baroness Winterton had prepared, but only to walk with her and go deeper in the subject. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak against Amendment 2? Baroness Winterton, can we hear your opinion on the amendment?
Thank you. Yes, once again, I'm grateful for the interest that has been shown and the thought that's been given to how we can make action even more effective. So I'm very happy to support this amendment as well.
Thank you. I shall now put Amendment 2 to the vote. All those in favor, please raise your voting cards. Thank you. All those against? Any abstentions? Amendment 2 is adopted. Now I call on Mr. Aydin from Turkey to propose Amendment 3, which amends paragraph 9.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to thank Principal Sponsor Baroness Rosie Winterton for her valuable effort and With this amendment, we aim to make the paragraph more balanced and operational in addressing the link between migration policies and the fight against human trafficking. We propose replacing safe and legal routes with regular, orderly, and safe migration pathways, as this wording better reflects the need for well-managed migration in line with national legal frameworks and international cooperation. We also believe that combating human trafficking requires fair sharing of burdens and responsibilities, particularly with countries hosting large refugee and migrant populations. These countries should not be left alone in addressing the humanitarian, social, and administrative challenges linked to large-scale migration. Finally, by referring to efforts to combat both migrant smuggling and trafficking in persons, the amendment strengthens the paragraph's focus on cross-border criminal networks and victim protection. We kindly ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak against Amendment 3? Baroness Winterton, what is your opinion on the amendment?
Well, Chair, I'm in something of a quandary because I had been minded to accept the amendment. However, I'm very conscious that the delegates have just voted against the almost exact, if not the exact same wording about 10 minutes ago. So I feel that you might advise on this. I feel we perhaps have to respect the opinion that's already been given.
Then we will ask the committee now. I shall now put the Amendment 3 to the vote. All those in favor, please raise your voting cards. Thank you. All those against, please raise your voting cards. Abstentions? Amendment 3 is adopted. We will now vote on paragraph 19 as amended. Those in favor? Thank you. Those against? Abstentions? Paragraph 19 is adopted. We will now take paragraph 20, which does not have any amendments proposed on it. Does anyone want to vote on this paragraph? With no request for a vote, paragraph 20 is agreed. We now move to a vote on the draft resolution as amended. Would those in favor of adopting the draft resolution please raise their voting cards? Thank you. Those who are against, please raise your voting cards. Abstentions? The draft resolution is adopted. We continue with supplementary item 8 on upholding election integrity and fundamental freedoms in Georgia. I would now like to give the floor to the principal sponsor of this supplementary item, Mr. Joe Wilson from the United States of America. Mr. Wilson, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and colleagues. What an honor to be with you today. It's just very humbling for me to be here with so many people who mean so much to their countries and have made such a difference. Sadly, the Republic of Georgia is undergoing a rapid collapse of judicial independence, escalating pressure on civil society, and the violent misuse of state power, all hallmarks of a swift totalitarian turn. The elections of October 2024 were determined by international observers, virtually all, as rigged elections, with the reducing of overseas voting being denied. Oligarch Invashvili is serving the interests of war criminal Putin, and by interrupting elections. Now, ironically, this actually alerted the people of Moldova that with the intrusion by Putin into election system of reducing overseas votes, and by accident now, really by playing over their hand, Moldova did allow overseas voting, and so now they have fair and free elections. The democratic breakdown creates openings for Russia, the Chinese Communist Party, and Iran, and they're positioned to exploit, sharply increasing risk for the transatlantic community and endangering Georgia's long-term sovereignty. Media restrictions, shrinking political competition, and suppression of peaceful dissent directly contradict the aspirations of the Georgians, who overwhelmingly seek a deeper partnership with the United States and Europe. Weakening institutions jeopardize Georgia's reliability along the middle corridor, undermining progress at the Anaklia deep sea port, and threatens strategic development of critical minerals, as these sectors require transparency, stability, and Western trust as we work with the newly liberated countries of Central Asia. These authoritarian trends coincide with an increasingly opaque electoral environment marked by pressure on opposition voices and laws that constrict civil space, casting serious doubts on the legitimacy of the future elections. Russia's accelerated integration of Georgia's occupied Skin Valley region marks a significant escalation of its long-standing illegal occupation. Through new legal agreements, the appointment of Russian officials to key governing positions and integration of the region's administrative, economic, and infrastructure systems into those of Russia. Moscow is further undermining Georgian sovereignty and territorial integrity. These actions appear to advance the de facto annexation of the region, despite the absence of formal declaration. Such developments challenge the principles of international law, threaten regional stability, and reinforce the need for a strong and coordinated international response in support of Georgia's internationally recognized borders and sovereignty, which I've had the opportunity to visit. To protect regional stability and uphold democratic standards, the OSCE EPA must require the release of politically motivated detainees, repeal restrictive laws, ensure genuinely fair and free elections, and withhold recognition of any outcome that fails to meet these benchmarks. I especially appreciate Georgians, as I know firsthand how courageous Georgian troops are, with 3 of my sons who have served with Georgian troops in Iraq and Afghanistan. Georgians were so professional and so appreciated. In Tbilisi, I had the opportunity to observe a joint parachute jump of troops from the Republic of Georgia and the American state of Georgia, and how impressive it was, their professionalism. America is fortunate to have a large community of Georgian Americans who have been so successful as they have become appreciated across America. This supplemental item advances those goals, and your support is essential. I yield back.
Thank you. The floor is now open for debate. I want to remind you that the time limit for speeches is 3 minutes. The first speaker on the list is Sir John Whittingdale from the United Kingdom. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Chair. And I wanted to congratulate and thank Congressman Wilson for tabling this resolution, which I strongly support. But I want to focus specifically on the issue of media freedom. Last week, I met a journalist from Netgazeti Batu Malibi, which is a national publication in Georgia. She is a colleague of Mzia Amaglobeli, who is the first female Georgian journalist to be imprisoned since the country became independent. She founded the newspaper in 2001, which has become national, and she has been subject to harassment ever since. And in January last year, she was arrested and charged during a peaceful protest. She was charged with distortion of a building appearance because she had placed a small sticker on a wall. She was charged with insulting and resisting police officers and an attack on a police officer. This consisted of slapping the face of the police chief who had made sexualized threats and insults to her. She was sentenced to 2 years in jail and is due for release in January 2027, but there are already suggestions that she will face further charges. And she is in serious health problems with the risk of total blindness. She has already lost the sight of one eye and has only 10% sight left in the other. Her case is emblematic of the ongoing suppression of media freedom that is taking place in Georgia. Since October 2025, there have been hundreds of documented incidents, including more than 120 cases of physical violence and injury to journalists. Most have been committed by law enforcement officers, and yet there have been no completed prosecutions. And the Media Freedom Coalition, which is now jointly chaired once again by the United Kingdom, has expressed deep concern over the use of force, violence and detentions against journalists and media workers. And that has also been highlighted by the document produced by the OSCE in the report under the Moscow mechanism. So on that basis, I would urge colleagues to support the resolution tabled by Congressman Wilson, and in particular, demand the release of Mzia Amaglobeli as soon as possible. Thank you.
The next speaker is Ms. Eka Sepashvili from Georgia, followed by Mr. Levan Mahashvili from Georgia. Ms. Sepashvili, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I have very carefully read all sentences of this draft resolution written by Mr. Joe Wilson. And unfortunately, what I found in this resolution, it is that in every sentence we can see the politically motivated sense behind all this, which is demonstrating false perception on maintaining false information. Obviously, this resolution aims just to harm the reputation of Georgia, not to reflect the reality which is really exists in Georgia. This is just is attempt to give some food to those radicals who prefer not to see the reality and democratic developments in Georgia, but instead to invent parallel universe where everything is gloomy and unfair. Due to the limited time, of course, I have no possibility to touch every sentence of this resolution and carefully and deliberately and in details show how every of them is felt. But I'll try to concern and to touch just few of them, what the time I had. First paragraph notes OECD report on Georgian election 2024, which was clearly positive, and emphasizing that OECD conclusion on Georgia's election was clearly and obviously positive. Instead of this, we are reading in this sentence the words that is in every report on elections and which notes some irregularities, which I emphasize once more is happening in every country and which had no impact in case of Georgia as impact on Georgia on the election result as this report concludes. But author tries to picture false reality as if the situation was terrible and this totally contradicts OECD positive conclusion and thus contradicts its reputation overly and totally. Further, the author condemns the law on transparency and amendments to the law on assembly and demonstration, arguing that these restrictions have made some harm to the freedom of association, expression, and assembly. But since we adopted these resolutions and these amendments and these laws, we cannot observe any limitation of this freedom of assembly, freedom of speech, as it is already confirmed by the different and prestigious international organization, placing Georgia in terms of rule of law, in terms of independence of judiciary, and so on, all these democratic institutions as on the good positions. So I have, I see that I have limited time, and I will stop here and give floor to my colleague to continue.
Thank you. The next and last speaker on the list is Mr. Levan Mahashvili from Georgia. Mr. Mahashvili, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I obviously speak today against this biased draft resolution sponsored by Mr. Joe Wilson. That does more to undermine trust in OSCE than to uphold its principles. The document amplifies unproven claims on elections. It erodes the very electoral integrity it claims to uphold and contradicts OSCE commitments to non-intervention. Take election observation reports of last 10 elections observed across the entire OSCE area and tell me which one was better than Georgia in terms of array of problems. But can you name one country that deserved such obsessive attention on this forum even after 2 years of elections? It is a matter of profound concern that certain delegates of OSCE-PA are exhibiting a disturbing tendency towards obsessive preoccupation, resembling the stalker and conspiracy theories found only in the works of fiction. Having examined the resolution sponsored by Mr. Joe Wilson, I find this conclusion difficult to avoid. This is not a parliamentary diplomacy. It is an instrumentalization of our common OSCE-PA platform, damaging the very fabric of dialogue we claim to uphold. So ironic that an American congressman is critical to another country trying to have a transparency legislation while having much stricter foreign agents legislation acts in his own country. Coincidentally, you will find in this FARA registry a contract of Georgia's former ruling party UNM with lobbying firm Nelson Mullins, ironically also linked with this congressman. Mr. Chair, piecemeal improvements, unfortunately, cannot remedy the fundamental conceptual and substantive shortcomings embedded throughout the entire document. Most of the draft resolution falls beyond reasonable judgment. Therefore, the most responsible step would be to reject the current draft in its entirety. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move to consider the amendments submitted to the draft resolution. 2 valid amendments have been tabled and copies of the amendments have been made available. Now we will take paragraphs 1 to 8 together, which do not have any amendments proposed on them. Does anyone want to vote on any of these paragraphs? With no request for a vote, paragraphs 1 to 8 are agreed. I call Mr. Graça from Portugal to propose Amendment 1, which amends paragraph 9.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank Congressman Joe Wilson for this supplementary item on Georgia, which I support and I did subscribe it to. Georgia has been a central topic in our Assembly. Last March, we made a mission to Georgia led by President Pons, and I think this is a very important contribution. My amendment is a modest addition to paragraph 9. It does not change the substance of the resolution, but simply strengthens it by explicitly referring to freedom of expression, media pluralism, the independence of broadcasters, and the recommendations of the OSCE representative on freedom of media and ODIHR. As OSCE Parliamentary Assembly, we should make full use of the expertise available within our own organization. The representative on freedom of the media has a unique mandate on precisely these issues, and referring to those recommendations reinforce the OSCE comprehensive approach. This amendment, therefore, broadens the resolution from a general reference to fundamental freedoms towards the practical implementation of exciting OSCE recommendation. It makes the test stronger, more balanced, and more consistent with our institutional work. I therefore invite you to support this amendment. Thank you.
Does anyone wish to speak against the amendment? What is Mr. Wilson's opinion on the amendment?
Mr. Chairman, I'm very grateful to and be happy to accept the amendment.
Thank you. I shall now put Amendment 1 to the vote. Will all those in favor of the amendment raise their voting cards? Thank you. All those against? Any abstentions? Amendment 1 is adopted. We will now vote on paragraph 9 as amended. Those in favor, please raise your voting cards. Thank you. Those against? Any abstentions? Paragraph 9 is adopted. We will now take paragraphs 10 to 14 together, which do not have any amendments proposed on them. Does anyone want to vote on any of these paragraphs? With no request for a vote, paragraphs 10 to 14 are adopted. I call Mr. Graça from Portugal to propose Amendment 2, which amends paragraph 15.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dear colleagues, my second amendment proposes a small but important clarification to paragraph 15. It adds that human rights monitoring should extend through Georgia, including the regions of Abkhazia and South Ossetia and Chinkavalil region, while continuing support for all affected population. This amendment is entirely consistent with the long-standing position of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. We have repeatedly reaffirmed Georgia's sovereignty and territorial integrity within its international recognized borders, while at the same time recognizing that people living across the conflict divide continue to face significant humanitarian and human rights challenges. Human rights are universal. Our concern should extend to everyone affected, irrespective of where they live. This amendment simply ensures that our resolution reflects that principle and does not unintentionally leave any affected population outside our field of concern. I therefore respectfully ask colleagues for the support of this amendment.
Does anyone wish to speak against Amendment 2? What is Mr. Wilson's opinion on the amendment? Mr. Wilson, the floor is yours.
Yes, I support this amendment for the inclusion of Russia's oppression of the regions of Georgia that it has occupied illegally. And actually, I've seen the Russian fence at Gori illegally occupying the sovereignty of the Republic of Georgia, and so I support the amendment.
Thank you. I shall now put Amendment 2 to the vote. All those in favor, please raise your voting cards. Thank you. All those against, please raise your voting cards. Abstentions? Amendment 2 is adopted. We will now vote on paragraph 15 as amended. Those in favor, please raise your voting cards. Thank you. Those against? Any abstentions? Paragraph 15 is adopted. We now move to a vote on the draft resolution as amended. Would those in favor of adopting the draft resolution please raise their voting cards? Would those against please raise their voting cards? Abstentions? The draft resolution is adopted. Dear colleagues, with this we will conclude today's meeting, and we will meet tomorrow at 11:30. We will continue considering the remaining 3 supplementary items, and then we will move on the election of the officers of the committee. I would like to remind you to bring your voting cards tomorrow with you, both for voting for the supplementary items, but also you may need them for the elections. Thank you and have a good evening.